October 1st, iconic American sprinter Florence Griffith Joyner wins her third gold medal of the Seoul Olympics, anchoring the victorious U.S. 4x100 meter relay team. Go Flojo.
Flojo.
October 13th, Shroud of Turin, revered by many Christians as Christ's burial cloth, is shown by carbon dating tests to be fake from the Middle Ages. October 18th, Roseanne, TV comedy starring Roseanne Barr, John Goodman, and Laurie Metcalf premieres in the U.S. on ABC. Today, we're going back to 1988.
1988. Hey, y'all. Welcome to the Way Back Recap, a podcast that obsessively explores all things from the past, from our favorite TV and film
to Sega Genesis. Sega!
Sega!
I'm Brandon.
And I'm Patricia. And today, we are talking about classic Unsolved Mysteries, which premiered officially on October 5th, 1988 on NBC. Now, today we are not talking about the Unsolved Mysteries recently featured on Netflix. It's a great program. We love it. That's just not what we're talking about today.
Yeah.
If you'd like us to talk about it, please do let us know, because I'm always dying to talk about Ray Riviera.
Oh, man. That case is wild.
It's wild. But if you want us to talk about it, let us know. Unsolved Mysteries was an American mystery documentary television show created by John Cosgrove and Terry Dunn-Muir. The show began as a series of 7 specials documenting cold cases and paranormal phenomenon presented by Raymond Burr, Carl Malden, and Robert Stack, which the series of specials started in January 1987.
Raymond Burr, sorry to interrupt, but is that the dude from the milk commercial?
No idea.
You know what I'm talking about? Like
Raymond Burr who killed somebody?
Yeah.
I don't think that's the same. The guy who killed Alexander Hamilton?
I don't know.
I do not think it's the same person. But I hope it's the lineage.
Wow,
like,
that'd be
I hope
wild.
he is like Raymond Burr the 8th or something.
I never knew that this was like a series like of 7 things.
Me either.
That's wild.
Me either. And outside of this conversation about Raymond Burr, I don't recognize the other 2 hosts. Unsolved Mysteries used a documentary style format to profile real life mysteries and featured heavily reenactments of unsolved crimes, missing persons cases, conspiracy theories, and unexplained paranormal phenomenon, i.e., alien abductions, ghosts, UFOs, and my favorite, quote unquote, secret history theories.
The crazy stuff.
I loved it.
No, I feel like the paranormal phenomena is like my favorite segments of all of them.
Me too. And for me, that's the biggest critique I have of the Netflix Unsolved Mysteries.
Yeah, I agree.
Is Netflix, they really feature on missing persons cases, and it's just, while I think those cases are 100% important, they aren't as much quote unquote fun for me. They more make me sad than make me excited.
Yeah, truly and honestly. And I think that it plays on more so that true crime wave that everybody's going on, right? You know what I mean?
Definitely. Myself included.
Yeah, but I mean, I love the spooky stuff.
I love the spooky stuff. And the unexplained stuff.
Yeah.
Which we'll get into later. Unsolved Mysteries was hosted by Robert Stack, who was an actor who, before Unsolved Mysteries, was best known for his role of Elliot Ness on the Untouchables TV show in the 50s.
Oh, wow. Have you ever watched that?
No.
Okay. I know there has been rappers from, I think, Making the Band 3. Excuse me, 2, who made the group Ness, who based his name off that character.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Elliot Ness was a bastard.
Really?
Oh my God, yeah. Who just would lie. That's so funny.
Yeah.
That's interesting that that's who they chose. I think it's because Ness rhymes with a lot of things.
Makes sense.
Now, listener, I would like you to take a moment from this podcast, open up your supercomputer that you hold in your hand, and Google search young Robert Stack. You tell me Robert Stack was a fucking fox. Young Joe Biden could never.
Wow, that's a statement.
Against young Robert Stack. And I feel 100% confident in that opinion.
Let me look at young Robert Stack right now.
Hey, y'all. Are you tired of talking to yourself, screaming into the void while you slowly go insane?
Us too, sis. That's why we finally decided to start a podcast. After tossing around the idea for literally years, it was finally Anchor that helped us take the lead.
Which is really saying something, because we can barely turn on computers. So it was always the technical side of podcasting that gave us pause. Luckily, Anchor has everything you need to make a podcast. all in one place and all totally free of charge.
The easy-to-use app provides for all aspects of recording, from storing and editing to producing your podcasts, all from the comfort of your laptop or your phone using the Anchor app.
Most importantly, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more, all for free.
Not only does your Anchor app take care of all your podcast needs, it can even make you money. Anchor provides sponsored content that you can include in your podcast that will generate revenue back to your show, all with no minimum listenership. Meaning, even if my crazy aunts are the only people who listen, we are still getting paid.
Maybe you love talking about 18th century battleships or the latest celebrity blunder. Take the leap. Anchor is with you every step of the way to make your podcast dreams a reality.
Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. He's all right.
I mean, I feel like you're being hurtful right now.
No, dude. I mean, there are pictures. There's this shirtless one. I'm like, get it, young Robert Stack. And I kind of like, was he ever young?
Brandon made a really good point that Robert Stack in 1950 looks the same as Robert Stack looked in 1985.
Yeah, truly and honestly.
Like,
he has a great head of hair.
Wrinklier. Great head of hair.
Actually, no, here it is. There's a picture of him, and it looks like, I'm sure that person's famous, right?
Oh, that's Elizabeth Taylor.
Yes, that is Elizabeth. I'm sorry, listeners. I didn't mean to cackle. But this picture of him and Elizabeth Taylor, he's very handsome.
Right? He's handsome.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, what's up, Robert Stack?
I mean, not all the pictures I take are gems. I'm going to be honest.
Ditto on that for me. So let us know, listener. Comment. Let us know if you take him over young Joe Biden. That's all I'm
still young Joe.
That's fine. That's cool.
Couldn't care less for Joe now, but...
After 9 seasons on NBC, the series moved to CBS for its 10th season in November of 1997. So from the research that I did, Unsolved Mysteries had a big premiere.
Yeah.
And the first 2 or 3 seasons did pretty good for NBC.
Yeah.
But ratings sort of started to decline really quickly.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if maybe it was an expensive show to produce because of the reenactments. Because of the quote unquote special effects they had to use.
Yes, quote and quote.
In 1988, they were very good effects.
Fair point.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I also feel like a lot of times those actors on the show didn't really have lines. And I feel like you don't necessarily have to pay actors as much. I mean, I'm speaking from nowhere of understanding.
Same. I don't know anything at all. And the reenactments are not starring Angelina Jolie. Yeah. These are just people doing a reenactment.
Yeah, truly.
Not to take anything away from them. I'm sure they have great acting careers.
Yeah.
So in season 11, they added Virginia Madsen as a co-host.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Virginia Madsen, is that the same woman who played in Candyman?
Yes.
It is?
Remembering. Yeah,
okay,
that is her.
Awesome. That's awesome. Okay, I didn't know that. Wow,
yeah.
Good get for her.
Yeah, I don't know much about her. And I don't think I've ever... I watched a lot of Unsolved Mysteries in my life. I don't remember any of her episodes. It could be that CBS had a different licensing. So maybe the CBS seasons aren't as readily available in the reruns.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
I feel like Unsolved Mysteries, sorry if I'm getting ahead of your storytelling here, lived in the reruns.
100%.
Yeah, 100%. I felt like it was very prevalent in my life growing up. We watched it all the time.
Yeah, and I'll get to that in just a second.
Yeah.
So they added this white lady co-host. Didn't save it on NBC. Or I'm sorry, on CBS or NBC, really. Eventually, the series was revived by Lifetime in 2000, which really, so they were showing and creating new episodes of Unsolved Mysteries, but Lifetime also held the syndication rights.
Yeah.
So you and me, I think, we watched the most Unsolved Mysteries from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Lifetime on weekdays when we should have been in class.
Oh, absolutely. I remember one time when I was a freshman in college, my roommate Zach and I, straight white man, we were sitting there watching Unsolved Mysteries about this woman who got kidnapped in a phone booth.
Oh my God.
It scared us so badly that neither of us went to class that day. We called off. We were like, we're not going to class.
I love that.
Yeah.
You and Zach celebrated the whole Lifetime morning lineup.
Yeah, dude. It was the Nanny, Golden Girls, Unsolved Mysteries for us. It was always on.
That's the way to go.
Yeah.
I love that somewhere the universe was like, okay, we're going to put these two young men together who maybe don't have a ton in common, but they love TV shows.
Yeah, that was a great
Like,
first semester of college.
I love that. So in 2002, Lifetime stopped making new episodes of Unsolved Mysteries when Robert Stack passed away, which is a fair enough thing.
Yeah.
Eventually, the series was picked back up on Spike, hosted by former Chicago police officer Dennis Farina.
I forgot about Spike until you just said that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
How about Dennis Farina was a Chicago police officer for 18 years?
Wow.
Right? That blew my mind. Listeners, Brandon is guffawed. He has nothing to say.
I mean, it's always interesting to me when people like switch careers so drastically.
Me too.
You know what I mean? I found out recently that Bonnie Hunt used to be a nurse.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, and then like Ken Jeong, he's a doctor who
Yep.
was a physician prior, and I think he's still.
Vera Wang didn't design a dress until she was 42. Samuel L. Jackson never made a movie until he was 40.
Wow.
Just saying,
It's
kids.
wild.
Never give up on your dreams.
Truly and honestly.
So, since this is our show and we can do whatever we want, we decided to pick our favorite segments from Unsolved Mysteries across the years to talk about today. Again, if we didn't talk about your favorite episode or favorite segments today, let us know. We love talking about Unsolved Mysteries.
Truly and honestly, I will watch Unsolved Mysteries as just like background noise.
And do.
Yeah.
All the time.
Truly.
If you are an Amazon Prime member, you can watch, I think, you can watch several of the seasons on Amazon Prime if you are so inclined. And we encourage you to. All the segments we're talking about today are available on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
The first segment we're talking about today is from season 9, episode 14, and it covers spontaneous human combustion. One of my favorite topics. And as a child, I thought this was going to be a much bigger problem as an adult than it has been. It's like spontaneous human combustion and quicksand.
Yeah, absolutely.
I thought were huge problems that adults faced all the time.
I mean, quicksand definitely for me when I watched
based on cartoons.
Never Ending Story for me, like it was too much.
Way too much.
Very traumatized when that horse died.
Very upsetting. Spoiler alert.
Oh, oops.
The internet defines spontaneous human combustion as the pseudoscientific concept of the combustion of a living or recently deceased human body without an apparent external source of ignition. Like, if that's not enough to scare you, you're a stronger person than I am. Like, the idea that your body could just suddenly burst into flames is nightmare shit.
Yeah, man. Ooh, gosh, yeah. Ugh.
The first vignette in this segment, and again, the thing to remember about Unsolved Mysteries is it's mostly based on reenactments or direct interviews. This segment starts with a woman named Kay Fletcher and her husband Mike in their kitchen, making their morning cup of coffee, when suddenly smoke begins to billow off of Kay, filling their kitchen up with smoke.
Yeah, man, that is frightening.
So, they do what any of us would do. They take off her clothing. Like, she thinks, oh, her sweater has caught fire.
Gosh.
They take off her clothing down to her bra.
Okay, Jill Zarin.
And the fabric is not burned. With the clothing removed, her skin smokes and it's bright red. But there's no sign of fire on her clothes, on the sweater she was wearing, or like the shirt that she was wearing under her sweater. Her husband, Mike, tells the camera that
earlier in my life, I worked at a crematorium for a time, and I know what the smell of burning human remains, and that is what my kitchen smelled like that day.
How does someone work at a crematorium for a time? Like, they just had a help wanted sign out front, and you're like, I'll try it.
Maybe. I mean, shit, sometimes people need jobs, and
I would flip burgers and make French fries before I worked at a crematorium. But that's just me. That's my bugaboo,
Man, I don't know. I couldn't do it.
Mike is tougher than I am, for sure. Both Kay and her husband are featured on the show, and they claim that she's one of the few people to survive spontaneous human combustion. And for what these people look like everyday people. Like, they don't look like people trying to get attention or just trying to get on TV. Like, these people seem sincere, in my opinion, but maybe I'm a goob.
Yeah, maybe this is a long con.
Which, I don't know. I always appreciate a long con. You know that about me.
Our friendship's been a long con for over 20 years.
If you are long conning me, you're not good at long conning. In my opinion. Ruby, what do you think? Yeah. Good point.
I always like to think that Ruby's inner monologue is of Miley Cyrus because she's young and she's from Arkansas. But I mean, Miley Cyrus isn't from Arkansas.
I have no idea where she's from.
I think
when I think of what's going on in Ruby's head, I think it's what's going on in Homer Simpson's head, and it's just like
she's always looking for a good time.
You and her share that.
We do.
Before we move on, I do want to note Unsolved Mysteries, in my opinion, I love the reenactments. And I knew that as a kid, that was something that had a big effect on me, was seeing the event, quote unquote. In between all the vignettes, you get like a very mysterious looking Robert Stack. Like, he's in a suit. It's dark. There's fire and flame. Like, it's very dramatic. And it makes me super happy. The next vignette is the story of George Mott, a retired fireman who had serious lung problems and relied on an air pump and an oxygen mask to breathe. After not hearing from his father for a while, George's son, Kendall, goes to check on his dad.
This actor playing Kendall Mott is a brooding fella who I am very interested in.
Brandon loves a big guy in flannel. And that's just exactly what it is. At the house, Kendall sees that the windows are all brown and the door handle is warm. Inside, it's dark and there's a smell of like burnt overwhelming him. Entering his father's room, Kendall finds an empty bed, a charred outline of where his father had been laying, now reduced to ashes and burnt shards of bone.
Dude, that is terrifying to see.
Terrifying. Also, this guy, Kendall's dad, George, was a fireman. So Kendall, no doubt, he's been raised, like, if you walk into a house and the door handle is hot and it's dark inside, a fire has happened.
Yeah.
Like, this is not an uninformed man making an uninformed decision. Like, Kendall goes in knowing that something is bad.
Yeah, very so.
At this point, we get to meet two people. Our spontaneous human combustion expert, Larry Arnold, who literally wrote the book on spontaneous human combustion and has wonderful hair. Distractingly good hair. Hair that I remembered specifically from this episode 20 years ago. This is the effect of this gray mullet that connects into a
the
gray
hair
beard.
Of an angel.
Oh my gosh, Larry
He looks
Arnold.
like Kenny Rogers and kind of like Mozart. Like,
this is I was thinking more like Dad Billy Ray Cyrus.
Dad Jimmy Ray Cyrus. I don't know.
Big Bill Cyrus. I don't know.
Cyrus.
But I love him. I think I would like to, after this episode, I'm going to look into how Larry Arnold's doing.
Good.
I bet he has an Instagram page. I am curious about it. Larry explains to us,
the George Mott case is special because of the extremely localized damage done to the body. George was incinerated at a temperature of over 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit per forensic experts.
That is very hot. That is a crematorium level of heat. That is shocking to me. Like, that's a very hot moment. Like, that's hotter than your fireplace at home.
Wow.
Like,
I don't have a fireplace.
Me either.
I know.
I was just like using a metaphorical you.
Oh, got you. I was like, you've been to my house, Patricia. I don't have a fireplace.
In the room where George died, in his bedroom, the TV was melted, but most of the bedding was left with no damage. What?
But right? Like, that is strange.
We're talking 3,000 degrees. And the outline of cotton and polyester sheets and blankets did not burn. How'd that work?
Okay, so that must imply that, like, spontaneous human combustion, I would assume that, like, the combustion happens, like, boom, like, kind of like a bomb real fast. And
we're going to talk about that in a little bit.
Because that...
Good point. Yeah, we're going to talk about that.
I'm no scientist.
Me, girl, I can barely spell science. The air mask that George, the victim, should have been wearing was on the nightstand next to his bed. And it was also undamaged, still pumping air. So a little plastic tube that you put on your nose to get oxygen, that thin plastic, was not melted. That doesn't make any sense. That thin plastic should have been melted right away. We're talking about a 3,000 Fahrenheit fire, and the thin plastic tube still exists. I have questions.
I'm interested. I mean, again, no scientists here, so I don't know what this could actually imply.
So speaking of someone who's not a scientist, our next person, there always has to be a counter expert, right? Got to present all sides. So we meet Joe Nickel.
Joe Dirt Nickel.
As a young person, I remember thinking, oh, this guy must be like a doctor or a scientist, at the very least, like a fireman or a cop. No, he's from an organization called Skeptical Inquirer magazine. Still around today if you want to subscribe. Like, this guy just writes for a magazine. Essentially, this bitch is a blogger. And he's just like trying to take on my expert, Larry Arnold. I'm sorry, Joe Nickel. How many books have you written about spontaneous human combustion? I have questions. I'm mad about it. So this person who writes for Skeptical Inquirer magazine, any guesses about what he thinks about spontaneous human combustion?
He is pro?
Negative.
Oh,
no.
okay.
While acknowledging that he doesn't know what happened.
Yeah, that's my favorite part. Now, do I know what happened? No. Like, then why are you speaking on it?
Girl, white man. I can't. He says that while I don't know what happened, and I can't explain what happened to George, I can tell you that he was old. Plus, he used to smoke and drink when he was a younger man. So he laid down, had a smoke for the first time in years with his serious lung damage.
Yes, and oxygen tank.
Yeah, so he just lit a cigarette and he's smoking in bed, not unexplained at all. He says this
is just another case of smoking in bed, and it's not mysterious, and it's actually a rather mundane case.
I am sure Kendall, the person who found his father burned to death, would describe this as mundane.
Yeah, that's traumatic, bruh.
And it's just, I don't understand how someone can look at a plastic tube next to the bed, not being melted, and say, oh, this guy was just smoking in bed. I myself have been known to smoke in bed. Do you know what's never happened to me? I have never burst into flames.
No, your sheets, yes.
I've ruined a comforter. You bet. You bet. I just don't. I feel like skeptic Joe Nickel here is coming uninformed and unwilling to learn.
It sounds about white.
That got me, guys. Sounds about
Sorry.
white.
I can say that some of my best friends are white.
It's true.
My dad,
Me? Now, this last example, or this last vignette, is something that's been seared into my brain for the last 2 decades. In 1966, Don Gasnell, who is employed by the local gas company, called on 92-year-old retired Dr. Irving Bentley. Finding the house empty, Don lets himself into the basement. Don tells us,
there was a pile of ashes and a smell I hadn't smelled before, a sickeningly sweet smell.
Looking up, he sees a hole in the ceiling directly over the pile of ashes. As he looks up, he sees that there are still red embers along the edge of the hole. More annoyed than anything, Don is thinking, when they got Dr. Bentley out, why didn't the fire department take care of this hole? Don goes upstairs, and that is where he finds the source of the fire. There is Dr. Bentley's walker, still completely intact, along with the only physical remains of Dr. Bentley, a human foot that was so discolored, it took Don a moment to even understand what he was looking at.
Yikes. Yeah, That is the worst day at work ever.
Bad day at work.
Do you think his manager let him go home that day?
Nope. I bet they're like, oh, you got 6 more houses, Don. So, call somebody. This is not your job.
That Don always coming up with some excuse not to do something.
I can't tell you how quickly I would have noped out of that situation.
Man.
I am just going to back up and pretend I never even saw this.
Homer Simpson in them bushes.
Our 2 experts weigh in. Larry Greathair says,
this fire produced enough thermal energy to reduce Dr. Bentley to ash, but not enough to burn the walker or the paint off the nearby tub, but instead directed all its energy downward through the linoleum and Wood subflooring.
Then it's professional skeptic Joe No Fun Nichols' turn. And guess what Joe says?
Dr. Bentley was infirmed. He smoked a pipe. His clothes have burned holes all because of his pipe. In many cases, a person's body fat acts as fuel. He drops to the ground where the highly flammable linoleum is all extra fuel that is needed. Is an event mysterious? No. Unusual? Yes.
So Joe's theory is 92-year-old infirm Dr. Bentley, a doctor, 92 years old, lit himself on fire while using the toilet.
I don't mean to laugh. It's not. But
Well,
it's
also
preposterous.
walking with his walker.
Preposterous.
Now, my mom is in a wheelchair. If you're telling me that she got herself to the bathroom, was performing something while also using her walker, that's a lot of action for someone who requires a walker.
Very true.
So already I'm feeling like Joe doesn't have a lot to stand on here. But then on top of that, once the old man is on fire, he falls to the ground where the quote-unquote extremely flammable linoleum aided in melting him. I did not know linoleum was extremely flammable. Like, extremely flammable is strong language.
Linoleum sounds like petroleum.
Oh, good point. Good point. Good add there.
Sorry.
So this all feels flimsy to me. What does spontaneous human combustion expert Larry think?
Debunkers of SHC could conduct a very simple experiment. Take a cadaver, put it on the linoleum floor, then throw a cigarette on it. If that body burns and turns to powder, that person deserves a Nobel Peace Prize in physics. But I wager the money that the experiment would fail.
Larry is speaking with my voice. Exactly. Like a cigarette onto a human person, that's not enough to burn them to 3,000, like to burn them to powder?
True, bro.
To powder?
True.
I would love to see that experiment done. Yeah. Joe Nickel, not a scientist. Maybe you should try this.
That's on his business card.
Not scientist. We learned that the running hypothesis from spontaneous human combustion experts is that these events happen when naturally occurring electrical currents within the body short circuit, causing the system to fry itself out from the inside.
Yikes.
So, I mean, that sounds reasonable to me. It's shocking and it's scary in like an aneurysm sense where like it could just happen. Like that's terrifying. But we do have naturally occurring, like we do have electrical currents in our body.
Yeah. Again, no scientist.
Me either. Yeah. Don't know nothing about nothing.
Goodness gracious. But I don't want that to happen to me. That's all I know.
Please don't let it happen to me. Also, I'm almost always near my pet. And I would be so upset.
I don't mean to laugh.
Please leave my pet alone. Larry claims to have studied over 400 cases of spontaneous human combustion, dating back to the 1400s.
Damn.
That seems relevant to me. But No Fun Joe gets the last word.
This is crack pottery of the highest order. These mystery mongers ought to shut up and get a life. That right there is pointed, and I don't think he's very credible after having that.
It is so sharp. It feels like, maybe you know you're wrong, Joe. Like the lady doth protest too much. Joe.
Yeah, that's like very like elementary school, like when someone's
right.
So you're just getting real petty now.
So you don't have anything to add, Joe? You're just gonna say it's crack pottery.
Joe is the WWE wrestlers of skeptics. He's Ed McMahoning this. I don't know. Is it Ed McMahon?
Vince McMahon. No. Ed McMahon hosted Star Surge.
But that would be hilarious.
Also good. Yeah, I'm curious to see
Holy shit. Sorry, the visual of this Dr. Bentley getting set on fire is absolutely terrifying. It's like through a mirror on camera, and it's just like this older gentleman bursting into flames. Oh my gosh.
It's great because while we see that, and don't tell me Unsolved Mysteries doesn't know what they're doing. Because like as we see this shocking image of this old man bursting into flames, that's when we get the voiceover from No Fun Nichols saying that this is crack pottery and that we're mongers of mystery. Like, get out of here, Joe. I can't stand you. This episode ends with a segment on the assassination of Tupac Shakur, and it is worth a watch no matter what, even if you don't believe in spontaneous human combustion or you aren't curious to see Larry's beautiful hair.
Larry, call me.
The next segment we're talking about debuted on September 18th, 1981. I'm sorry, 1991. Season 4, Episode 1, The Rendlesham Forest Incident. About to get spooky, y'all.
Yay! Finally!
In 1980, just after Christmas, at an American Air Force base at the edge of the Rendlesham Forest in the United Kingdom, over 15 airmen encountered something no one can explain. Before we get into it real quick, you might be confused about why there's an American Air Force base in the United Kingdom.
I was going to ask, yes. Imperialism?
That's not it, but it is kind of it. Like, after World War II, the United States set up bases, like military bases, in lots of places. We have several in the UK, there's several in Germany, there's a few in Italy. It's just kind of like lingering World War II things.
Yes.
And at this time, they were very active because 1981, we are at the peak of the Cold War.
Yeah.
So any country that had united against communism were kind of working together to still fight against communism. You couldn't see my air quotes. But, so that's part of it. So the idea is that on this Air Force base, that is American soil. That is part of the United States. Outside of the base, you are in the country of origin. So it's the episode of it's the Simpsons episode when they're in Australia. Like, I'm in America. I'm in Australia.
Yeah.
I'm in America. It's that exact situation.
Okay.
So the second these guys step off base, they are in Britain. It is the United Kingdom. So that's something to keep in mind when we tell the story. At 2 a.m. on December 26, Staff Sergeant John Burroughs was on patrol with his partner when both men say bright lights appeared in the woods. Sergeant says,
"It looked like a light show, like a Christmas light show in the middle of the woods."
They immediately reported to their commander, and while on the phone reporting it, they see the lights again. At this point, another team have arrived for backup. All 4 men reported seeing odd, bright, white lights among the trees. John and the second team were sent off base to investigate. Now, again, since they're going off a base, they have to leave all of their weapons behind.
Man, no thank you.
Because they don't have jurisdiction anymore.
Yeah.
So we're sending 4 unarmed dudes into the woods where there are bright lights. Like, again, I don't mean to harp on this, but if this is on the southern coast of England. So if there were going to be an invasion, that is a good spot for people to come into England. So you're sending 4 unarmed people into the woods to investigate an invasion?
Yeah, bro.
Like, never mind aliens. Like,
yeah.
I just think they should have gotten to take a stick or something. Like a baton. I don't know. I'm not going into the woods alone.
Man,
with
me
no
either.
Weapons. That's just me. So the group gets to the edge of the forest and they have to finish it on trip because the vehicles won't move any further. I think also these gentlemen, these military professionals, are interviewed on camera.
Yeah.
So they participated with Unsolved Mysteries to tell this story. My brain thinks if Staff Sergeant John Burroughs is going to let his name and title be added to the show, he's sincere. He is telling you what happened.
Yeah.
Like, he's not shadowed. Like, we see him and he tells us the story. I think that matters. So the 4 airmen go into the woods. With each step they take into the woods, they hear more and more sound. All of the animals in the forest are upset and on high alert.
That right there would be like...
Same.
Yeah.
I'm very upset. Don't do that. Don't do that. Over their radios, which are working kind of sporadically, they get confirmation from Heathrow Airport, which is the closest big airport to the base. They get confirmation that on the radar, the technicians saw something over the base. So a craft was documented on radar being over the base.
Okay.
Pretty compelling evidence for me. But it was only on there for a minute before it disappeared. Also concerning.
Very concerning.
Birds don't disappear. Meteors don't disappear. Something to think about. Further into the woods and towards the lights, the servicemen encounter a flying saucer. A silver craft with circular and strobing blue and red lights all around it. It looks straight up like it came from out of like Spencer's Gifts. Like this looks like the flying saucer we all think about when we think about flying saucers.
Yeah.
As soon as they get close, however, a force throws all the men to the ground before the craft itself lifts straight up out of the trees and into the sky. Staff Sergeant Burrow tells us,
when it was happening, everything seemed to go slower. We seemed to be in like a time warp. Everything appeared slower. The moment the craft was gone, everything went back to normal.
and at this point, I'm quitting the Air Force.
Yeah, that is the day I
This is
resigned.
a dishonorable discharge. Whatever you need to do, I'll just go back to Texas. Like, I gotta go.
The idea that something is so powerful that it can control like the time around you,
or
just
gravity. Like the idea that this force can manipulate gravity, like forcing 4 servicemen to the ground, would take a great deal of force.
Yeah.
Oh, shivers. The arms on all my hair.
And I think this...
The arms on all my hair. The hairs on all my arms.
The visual of his arms all on your hair.
It's a terrible image. I hate that.
Arms in your hair. Arms in your hair.
It's in my hair. It's in my hair. It's in my hair. Over the next 3 hours, the servicemen chased the craft.
No.
As it kind of toyed with them, it would let them get close and then lift off again. 5 hours later, Staff Sergeant describes the incident to his commander, who tells them to go back out into the forest and try to find some evidence. Burrow tells us,
I was hoping that when I got out there, basically that I would see nothing, that there would be no telltale evidence. I would make it easier for me, because if there's nothing proving that something happened to me, you can just kind of check it off. But when you get out there and you find damaged trees and depressions in the ground, that makes it even more unexplainable.
And I'm with John here. Like, I would much rather this be a fever dream. Like, I would love to go back out there and be like, oh, I just need a psychologist. Maybe there's some medicine. That is easier for me to accept than the idea that I spent the night chasing the flying saucer.
I mean, here's the thing. Flying saucers and UFOs, and which, synonyms, but just aliens in general is probably one of the more scarier thoughts to me. Like, the idea,
especially as a kid.
Yeah.
Like, this was a very scary episode for me. Very scary.
You know what scared me? Fucking E.T., bro.
Oh, same.
Yeah, I did not like that.
I don't like...
I mean, as I grew a little older, I remember I did really like E.T., but the first time I saw it, I remember I was like,
scary. Oh. It's hiding in my closet?
Yeah.
No, thank you. I don't want that. Big no. So the group of servicemen go back out looking. This time, they take the English police with them, because at least now they can be armed. And, you're cooperating with the local people, which is always a good idea.
Safety in numbers, I was thinking.
And safety in numbers. And the more eyes you can. We have to remember, this is the forest. So I have to imagine, that's a lot of searching.
Yeah, very so.
But the group go back to the site and they see indentations in the ground. The trees are all broken and have burnt marks on them, indicating that there was a big heat source that burned these trees that was not there the day before. Remember, these guys' whole job is to make sure nothing shady is going on in this forest.
Yeah.
So they know the forest. They know that this is something has happened. Again, scaring the heck out of me.
No, ma'am.
The next morning, Colonel Charles Holt arrives on base. And right away, he hears about the fantastic UFO story that Staff Sergeant Burroughs is telling anybody who will listen. And so it's kind of a joke, but Colonel Holt does not take it as a joke. Because again, we got to think, Colonel Holt is thinking invasion. He is thinking this is not a joke. If something was in the forest, we need to 100% figure out what was in the forest.
I appreciate that.
Me too. And again, we meet Colonel Holt. He is featured in the Unsolved Mysteries episode. And that gives it a lot of weight to me. This is a colonel. And he is telling this story as God honest truth. That has a lot of weight for me. At first, he's skeptical, but, once he speaks to the servicemen, he's concerned, there shouldn't be any lights in the forest.
Yeah, there should be no lights there. So the fact you've seen lights.
It's a problem. It's a problem. So Colonel Holt orders huge floodlights to be brought into the forest that night, because we're going to figure this out. But the minute it gets to the forest line, the lights stop working.
Ooh.
He gets a videographer, someone to take a video of the incident. No, the second he gets to the tree line, the cameras stop working.
Nope.
The only technology that will work in the forest is a tape recorder. The events we describe next are lifted directly from that tape recording. When the servicemen approach the landing site, they see more evidence that something has been here. Also, the whole area is glowing. Again, I am noping and I'm running away as fast as humanly possible. As they're searching, the group encounters a red glowing object, almost eye-shaped. No. No. Very scared. I'm very scared. Please don't do that. This eye-shaped light is zigzagging in between trees before it seemed to wink at the group as they approached.
This episode should just be titled Nope.
An event Patricia would never be a part of is what this thing should be called.
God, first of all, I'm never in the woods.
Nope. Nothing good happens in the woods.
No.
If you love the woods, that's your choice. So this light is sort of interested in the servicemen, but sort of not. And it kind of flutters about. The servicemen pursue the light, eventually coming to a farmhouse. And this farmhouse is also glowing orange. At first, some of the servicemen are like, oh, maybe they're concerned the farmhouse is on fire.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's just glowing orange. So the red eye is kind of looking in between the farmhouse and the servicemen. It goes back towards the farmhouse before that red light splits into 5 white lights that all go off in a different direction. I don't like it. I'm very upset. I
mean, the whole time, as they were saying, this kind of looked like it was like playing with them and stuff like that. That to me is just like a level of sentience I
couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more. Now remember, this forest is on the coast of England. So as the group gets closer to the coast, in the sky, they see 3 more crafts. Each one with a pencil beam of light going down over the forest. The beam of light is seen not only in the forest, but it's also seen back at the base.
Wow.
And in the town nearby. So all 3 places are reporting seeing the lights. One sergeant, Sergeant Ball, said,
to me, it looked like a grid search. They were boxing off an area and looking for something. And that was the thought that hit me right away and has stayed with me ever since. It looked like a search pattern.
Sergeant Ball, first of all, is great.
Yeah.
Because he's on TV. He's got his bolo tie on. I'm a huge fan. And I totally agree with him.
Yeah.
They are scanning this space. And again, makes me very upset.
What are you looking for?
So at one point, one of the crafts comes directly over to Colonel Holt and beams a light directly at his feet.
Colonel Holt's a better man than me.
And he's strong, man, because you just would have seen the shape of dust that was me. I would have ran so fast. Faster than I even thought I was capable of running would I have run from this beam of light. And again, the story, this is all being told from Colonel Holt's tape recording. So this whole time, it's just like Colonel Holt narrating this wild experience.
Dude, can you imagine the people who first heard this tape and how scary it would have to be? Like just hearing like the scuffling and everything, and just like people, the silence would also be scary.
Yes, huge. And these are respected guys. Like that's the thought that comes with me is when they go back to the base and they play this tape, it has to have some legitimacy to them because they know these men. Like these people who know Colonel Holt, who know him to be a stand-up, honorable person, when he comes back telling this fantastical story, that has weight. You want to dismiss it right away, but I would have a hard time doing that from a colonel.
Man.
Like it just seems legit to me. But of course, there are always going to be skeptics. And these skeptics have lots of explanations for this event. The first and most trite is the tried and true, it was a meteor excuse. Staff Sergeant Burroughs speaks with my voice when he tells us,
I've seen meteor showers before, and I know what a meteor is, and meteors fall from the sky. They do not go back up into it.
And Colonel Holt says,
meteor showers do not zigzag between trees.
damn right, Colonel Holt. It was a meteor is so dumb to me. First of all, meteors are not red.
Yeah. Well, maybe they are. I don't know. I've never seen a meteor.
I don't think they glow red.
Yes.
From the science I have seen.
From the Google searches I have done of meteors that I've looked at images of.
Exactly. Another excuse is that this is reflective light that is being reflected off of a lighthouse nearby. But this also feels flimsy to me. I think a colonel in the Air Force knows what a lighthouse looks like.
Yeah, truly, right? Or it doesn't.
Especially if it's near their base. Like, I would think that they have to take into account the lighthouse frequently. And they know what the lighthouse looks like.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
That's insulting to Colonel Holt.
Colonel Holt. Motherfuckers. The next morning, Colonel Holt played the tape recording for his boss, who told him to go ahead and write up an incident report, which he did. He also provided a copy to the English authorities. However, neither the Air Force nor English authorities made any action afterwards. This write-up was just filed away.
Bureaucracy, bruh.
Classic. There were additional sightings in 1981. More recently, in 2015, there have been sightings over the same Air Force base, where there are 3 flashing white lights that are seemingly playing with a military helicopter. And it's that playing aspect. Like, it's the idea that they're just goofing around. That they're like, we're going to fuck with these guys. Watch.
Yeah, that's scary.
Very off-putting for me.
Yeah, I don't like it.
You can see the 2015 incident was recorded and is on YouTube.
Yeah,
I encourage you to look at it. It's wild. Interestingly enough, this event occurred just 3 days before the infamous Betty Cash and Vicki Lundrum UFO sightings in Texas, also featured on Unsolved Mysteries, Season 3, Episode 19. It's also a wild case. As a child, young adult, this segment was very scary to me. As an adult, I've come to the realization that aliens have nothing to gain from interacting with humans. We are a disgusting, primitive species that if another creature has developed interstellar flight, they are so far above us that we add nothing to them. Unless they wanted to just annihilate us and take our broken, dead planet. They could do that, I guess. But as an adult, this scares me less.
Yeah, I feel you.
Except with that toying notion. Like the idea that they're just like, let's go fuck up Earth. And they just come and they play with our military helicopters. Off-putting.
Very off-putting, yeah. Takes one teenage alien to just want to... One sociopathic teenage alien.
To be like, watch this and just create their version of social media post of just fucking with Earth. It makes me upset. Our last segment premiered on April 25th, 1990 in Season 2, Episode 19. And it is the case of Terracita, Voice from the Grave.
Terrifying title.
On a cold night in February 1977, the fire department was called to a house on the north side of Chicago. In the apartment, they found a stack of mattresses on the floor on fire in the living room. Once the fire was out, they found the body of Terracita with a stab wound in her chest under the mattresses. Despite the brutality of the crime, there wasn't a ton of evidence, again, because of the fire. So the case went cold fast. Terracita had immigrated from the Philippines and had found success as a respiratory therapist. Well done, Terracita.
Yeah, seriously, good job, good job.
Terracita was well liked at her hospital, and no one knew of any known enemies she might have. The only evidence the police had was a note in her hand saying she was either buying tickets from someone with the initials AS or was giving tickets to someone with the initials AS. 6 months later, the detective in charge got a call from a married couple. The wife of the couple had worked at the same hospital as Terracita. The couple told detectives they had information about the case, and the detectives were glad to speak with them because they had literally no other leads. They had nothing. While recognizing that the story sounds bizarre, the couple told the story that the wife, during a 24-hour shift at the hospital, she was also a respiratory therapist, she had gone into the doctor's lounge to take a nap. And essentially, Terracita showed herself to her, frightening
Oh,
the
God.
wits out of her.
Man, at work, Terracita?
I am working, ma'am. This is the lounge room. You can't be coming in here like this. So this ghost form of Terracita shows herself to the wife, and the wife tells us,
At first, I thought I was dreaming. I could not believe my eyes. She was looking at me, staring at me. I didn't know what to do. I don't know why I did that as Blanche
I love it.
Devereaux.
I love it. We're
Okay.
keeping it the whole time.
Okay.
Stay with it.
Thank you. I know these have been very shaky, folks.
2 weeks later, at their home, the wife, again, after a long day at the hospital, she comes home and she's exhausted. So she goes to bed early. When her husband comes to check on her, his wife answers back in a voice he doesn't recognize. He asks, "Who am I speaking to?" And the voice of Terracita Bassa comes through and gives him specific instructions.
You must go to the police. They cannot find my killer. Tell them his name is Alan Showery. Tell them.
Now, the husband does not know Terracita. He also doesn't know who the fuck Alan Showery is. So he keeps the encounter to himself. He doesn't even tell his wife, who wakes up with no memory of the conversation. But the voice comes back, again possessing his wife, and this time she's pissed.
Why haven't you done anything? Why haven't you told the police?
The husband answers, "What am I supposed to do? I have no proof." The voice responds with a growl.
I will give you proof. After he killed me, he took my jewelry and he gave it to his girlfriend. That's my ghost voice.
I loved it. With this information, the detectives... So first of all, the detectives take this information.
Wild.
This is an odd lead. I love spooky shit.
Me too.
And I don't know if I would take this and run. I definitely don't know if I would go investigate a man who has no connection to this case that I know of as a police detective. Like, I don't know Alan Showery from The Man in the Moon. But they do have that note that says someone with the initials AS were picking it. So the detective's hypothesis is that Terracita had this interaction with AS.
Yes.
So that when the couple says Alan Showery, okay, like, this is a little bit of evidence.
I wonder if they didn't give... That's probably something they kept from the public.
I would imagine, yeah.
Yeah.
So the detectives began looking into Alan Showery, who was an orderly at the same hospital as Terracita and the wife of the couple. The couple asked to remain anonymous, so that's why I'm not using their names. Their names have since been publicized, but I'm not going to use them.
Yeah.
Because they asked to be anonymous, so I'm going to do that. But the wife of that couple, Terracita, and Alan Showery all work at the same hospital, so there is a connection. When questioning other people at the hospital, the detective learns that Alan Showery was expected at Teresa's home that evening to fix her TV. They bring Showery in for questioning. He says, "Yeah, I did go to fix her TV, but I didn't have the right tools, so I went home." However, detectives bring in Showery's girlfriend, and they found out that Showery had recently given his girlfriend a huge amount of jewelry. Jewelry that was later recognized by Terracita's family as being Terracita's, including the ring on the girlfriend's finger.
Wow.
This feels a little flimsy to me, but Terracita had a very unique jade necklace, and the girlfriend was in possession of that. And so that seemed like it was such a unique piece of jewelry. It connected them. Again, seems flimsy to me, but I'm not a Chicago police detective, obviously. When confronted with this information, Showery confesses that he had gone to her house and left, but then he went back to murder and rob Terracita, burning her body to disguise the evidence. Without the information provided by this married couple, Terracita's case would have never been solved. In the end, this case is known that Terracita solved her own murder. So there is some romantic, thought about, she had to come back from the grave to get this man. This episode had a huge effect on me as a kid, but also on many others, and it's really gone on to be a huge fan favorite. So much so that the executive producers of Unsolved Mysteries would go on to make a whitewashed TV version of this case called Voice from the Grave, which stars 4 white people.
Lord.
And no one in this story is white except the detectives. So it's like 1996, grain of salt. I watched the trailer for Voice from the Grave. It seemed terrible. But
if you've seen it, please let us know. We'll love to review it.
100 million% I would. Let us know. Insert Unsolved Mystery update noise. My 2021 eyes look at this story with a bit more criticism. Firstly, the wife who had these visions had recently been fired from this hospital, where she may or may not have had a negative relationship with Showery. They did know each other. Secondly, Showery recanted his confession during the trial, claiming the Chicago PD had forced him to do so. I believe that 10 million%.
Yeah, it
this
happens
is
a lot.
Late 70s Chicago? Come on. Ultimately, Showery confessed again as part of a plea deal. And while he was sentenced to 14 years in jail, he served less than 5 before being released in 1983. There's no record of Alan Showery until 2005, where I think he's mentioned in like a marriage anniversary blurb. So he did not go on to commit any further crimes.
Wow.
At least any violent crimes. So that matters to me too. Like, I don't know why he would choose to... I don't know why people choose to rob, period. But if you're going to rob somebody, I don't think you'd pick rob and murder. Like, this is and murder, a very violent murder. I don't know why he would do that for $30 and some cheap jewelry. Doesn't seem worth murdering someone where you were the last person to interact with her, and people know you were the last person to interact with her.
Yeah.
She wasn't sexually assaulted. He didn't take the TV. Like, the person who robbed her just took the money that was in her purse and the jewelry. So it just seems odd to me.
Yeah, and like the quick Google search I did for that information about like just kind of like the recanting of the confession and the relationship between the physician's wife and Alan. I believe that. Like, I hate saying that. Like, if you dislike somebody, I don't know.
And I mean, let's call a rose. This would not be the first time a black man was a scapegoat for a violent crime.
Truly, honestly.
Where they were just like, we found this guy. He has a flimsy connection. Let's roast him. It was
a cold case before then too, wasn't it?
Very cold. They had literally nothing.
Oh, wow.
But if I'm on the jury for that case, I wouldn't be able to convict beyond a reasonable doubt.
I wouldn't
have
either.
Several reasonable doubts.
Yeah, likewise. That's what I probably wouldn't even have been picked to be a jury member on that. But it would have been a tough case for me to convict as well.
And while, no jail time is good jail time, at least he wasn't locked away forever.
Yeah.
Like, at least he was kind of able to
get
out and live a happy life. Yeah, I mean, it's a shame what happened to Terracita. She seemed like such a nice person, and she had such a good career going.
Yeah.
And, if she had to come back from the dead to solve her case, that's hard. Good job, Terracita.
Yeah, truly.
But it's a delightful, spooky case. I love the idea of a murdered person coming back from the dead and being like, get your shit together, motherfuckers. Solve this, idiots.
That's gonna be the person I would be if I ever got murdered. Ghost. I'd be very, very persistent.
Oh, I would be annoying. Yeah, you wouldn't be able to take a single nap. I'd be like, ding dong, me again. Hi, have you solved my murder? I told you who it was. What the fuck? But I would also haunt somebody I had a closer connection with, because these people, it's not like they were best friends or anything. She just kind of knew her. That's the other part. Like, I have skeptical eyes when I'm thinking about this wife.
Yeah, and right. Like that's where my skepticism is this person who's like saying all this, who went to get possessed to say all this. You know what I mean? Like that.
Like a disgruntled employee
who had gotten fired, from her job for not working well. Like, that's all the things, like...
Maybe she was involved. There was no sexual assault on Terracita. So that doesn't... In my fucked up true crime brain, that means that the murderer could have been a woman.
Yeah, true. Like, looking back on it, too, like, looking at some of the more information, like, Alan Showery complained 2 times, I think, to, like, management about, about her, like, work ethic and her not doing stuff like that. So, I mean...
Like, if she was fired, this is all hypothetical. We have no evidence. But if this woman got into she had a negative interaction with Alan.
Yeah.
And that resulted in her being fired. I can see how someone would be upset by that.
Yeah.
And would want revenge. And would maybe manipulate a very sad murder, the death of Terracita, into manipulating it into her revenge plot.
Yeah, that's wild.
If she didn't do it. And I'm just saying, what was she doing that night?
Allegedly. These are all...
Allegedly, underline allegedly. This is the first episode we've recorded since premiering the show. We just want to take a moment to say thank you so much to everybody who's listened, people who have reached out, people who have reposted things for us.
Yeah,
we
thank
really
you.
appreciate your support. We're doing this for you. We hope the show makes you smile. We're having a great time. We hope you guys stay.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you all so much for tuning in today. If you have any questions, suggestions, or embarrassing confessions, send us an email at thewaybackrecap@gmail.com. Again, that's thewaybackrecap@gmail.com. You can find us on Instagram at thewaybackrecappod. Again, thewaybackrecappod. If you would like to support the show and or listen to bonus content, exclusive episodes, visit our Patreon page.
Our original cover art is by Laura Strobush. Remember, wherever you listen to podcasts, follow or subscribe to the Wayback Recap. If you enjoyed yourself, please rate and review the show. But if that's too much,
we totally get it.
Tell a friend.
Maybe come back from the dead and tell us that the one thing you regret in life is not listening to the Wayback Recap.
And join us next time. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Patricia. On behalf of the Wayback Recap,
take care of each other, y'all.